In 1857, Glasgow was shaken by the sudden death of Pierre Emile L'Angelier. At the centre stood Madeleine Hamilton Smith, a young socialite accused of poisoning her lover with arsenic in a trial that would captivate Victorian Scotland. Hello, welcome to Cold Case UK. Pierre Emile L'Angelier was born on 30th of April 1823 in St. Helier, Jersey, in the Channel Islands. Jersey is a small island situated in the English Channel, off the coast of Normandy in France. Although Jersey is a British Crown dependency, the island has strong French cultural ties, and the L'Angelier family reflected this. Pierre grew up in modest circumstances. His family were connected to the nursery trade, working with plants and seeds. As a young man, Pierre L'Angelier was ambitious. He wanted more than Jersey could offer him. He was described by those who knew him as dandified in appearance, fond of ornate waistcoats and a well-groomed moustache. He cultivated charm and an air of sophistication. He was drawn to people of higher social standing than his own, and worked hard to move in circles above his birth. In the early 1850s, L'Angelier made his way to Scotland in search of work and opportunity. He passed through Edinburgh and worked at a nursery before eventually settling in Glasgow. When he first arrived, according to sources, he lived in considerable poverty, dependent at times on the goodwill of others. Eventually, he secured employment as a packing clerk at a warehouse at 10 Bothwell Street in Glasgow. He earned 10 shillings a week. It was a modest wage for a man with aspirations far beyond his station. L'Angelier was 31 years old when he settled into his working life in Glasgow. He attended church. He cultivated friendships with people of means and respectability. He kept himself well dressed despite his limited income. He was charming to women and socially ambitious. He was, by all accounts, a man who believed he deserved more than life had given him. In the spring of 1855, L'Angelier became aware of a young woman. Her name was Madeleine Hamilton Smith. Madeleine Hamilton Smith was born on 29th of March 1835 in Glasgow. She was the eldest of 5 children. Her father, James Smith, was a wealthy and respected architect. Her mother, Elizabeth, was the daughter of David Hamilton, one of Glasgow's leading neoclassical architects. Madeleine came from a world of considerable privilege and social standing. The Smith family lived at their townhouse at 7 Blitheswood Square in Glasgow, one of the most prestigious addresses in the city. They also had a country property called Rowlin, situated outside Glasgow on the River Clyde. The family moved comfortably between both properties. Servants attended to the household. James Smith's architectural practice was prosperous. The Smiths occupied a prominent position in Glasgow society. Between 1851 and 1853, Madeleine was sent to a finishing school in London. She returned to Glasgow at the age of 18. She was described by contemporaries as attractive and confident, with dark hair and grey eyes. She was vivacious and intelligent. She attended balls and parties with her family. She walked the streets of Glasgow with her younger sister Bessie. She was, in every outward respect, a young woman of her class and time, raised to marry well and manage a household. But Madeleine was not simply content to follow the path that had been laid out for her. In the spring of 1855, through a mutual acquaintance, Madeleine Smith and Pierre Emile L'Angelier were introduced. She was 19 years old. He was 31. He was a packing clerk from the Channel Islands, earning 10 shillings a week. She was the daughter of one of Glasgow's most respected architects, living in one of its finest squares. By every measure of Victorian society, they had no business knowing each other at all. But they did. What began as an introduction quickly became a correspondence. Madeleine wrote her first letter to L'Angelier in April 1855. From that point, the letters flowed between them at remarkable frequency. Madeleine was already a prolific letter writer, and she threw herself into this correspondence with intensity. She wrote to him multiple times a week. Almost 200 letters from Madeleine were later found at L'Angelier's lodgings and in his office desk after his death. The letters grew increasingly intimate in their tone. The relationship was conducted entirely in secret. Madeleine's family knew nothing of it. Her father, James Smith, had he known, would have immediately forbidden any contact. A penniless foreign clerk was not a suitable companion for his eldest daughter. L'Angelier himself acknowledged the social gulf between them. He could not accompany Madeleine to any of the balls and parties she attended. He was not admitted to her social circle. Their meetings took place late at night, at the basement bedroom window of 7 Blitheswood Square, while the household slept. According to sources, the relationship became physical. During one of their clandestine meetings, Madeleine lost her virginity to L'Angelier. In her letters, she referred to him as her husband. She signed herself as his wife. They considered themselves secretly engaged. She wrote to him in terms that, when later read aloud in a Victorian courtroom, shocked the entire country. Madeleine's parents were entirely unaware. They had their own plans for their daughter. Living in the flat above the Smiths at Blitheswood Square was a prosperous merchant named William Harper Minnock. He was respectable, successful, and entirely suitable. Madeleine's family approved of him. He began to court Madeleine. She did not discourage him. Through 1855 and 1856, the secret affair with L'Angelier continued. There were tensions. L'Angelier became controlling and jealous. He wrote letters laying down rules for Madeleine's behavior at the social events he could not attend. By late 1856, according to sources, Madeleine had begun to tire of the relationship. The excitement of the secret had given way to the reality of its impossibility. On 28 January 1857, William Harper Minnock proposed marriage to Madeleine Smith. She accepted. She now had a serious problem. She'd written almost 200 deeply intimate letters to a man who was not her fiancé. Those letters, if seen by her family or by Minnock, would destroy her reputation, her engagement, and her family's standing in Glasgow society entirely. She needed them back. On 15 February 1857, Madeleine wrote to L'Angelier ending their relationship and asking him to return every letter she had ever sent him. L'Angelier refused. He not only refused, but threatened to take her letters directly to her father if she proceeded with her engagement to Minnock. He told her that in his view, they were already married in the eyes of God. He would not accept that the relationship was over. The letters were his leverage, and he intended to use them. Madeleine was trapped. If L'Angelier showed those letters to her father, everything she had would be gone. In the weeks that followed, Madeleine made several visits to chemists' shops in Glasgow. On each occasion, she purchased arsenic. She was required by law to sign a poison register each time, which she did, using her real name. On the first occasion, she said it was to kill rats. According to sources, she later claimed she wanted it for cosmetic purposes. Around the same period, L'Angelier began to fall seriously ill. He suffered violent stomach pains, vomiting, and extreme weakness. His landlady attended to him during the worst episodes. He told friends he had been taken unwell after leaving Madeleine. According to sources, he told one acquaintance, "I can't think why I was so unwell after getting that coffee and chocolate from her." He told another friend that if Madeleine were ever to poison him, he would forgive her. L'Angelier recovered from his first episode of illness. He fell ill again in early March 1857. He recovered again. He continued to correspond with Madeleine. He continued to refuse to return her letters. In the early hours of 23 March 1857, Pierre Emile L'Angelier was found in agony at his lodgings in Glasgow. His landlady was called. A doctor attended. Despite their efforts, L'Angelier died that morning. He was 33 years old. He was buried at Ramshorn Cemetery on Ingram Street in Glasgow. When police searched his lodgings, they found Madeleine's letters. They also discovered that Madeleine had recently purchased arsenic from chemists' shops in Glasgow. A post-mortem examination of L'Angelier's body was carried out. The result was unambiguous. His body contained 82 grains of arsenic. According to the professor of chemistry at Glasgow University, who gave evidence at the subsequent trial, 4 to 6 grains were generally regarded as sufficient to destroy life. On 31st March 1857, Madeleine Hamilton Smith was arrested and charged with the murder of Pierre Emile L'Angelier. The trial took place at the High Court in Edinburgh. The decision to hold it in Edinburgh rather than Glasgow had been made because of the intensity of public feeling in Glasgow, where the case was already a sensation. The trial began on 30th of June 1857 and concluded on 9th July 1857. It lasted 9 days. Each morning a vast crowd assembled outside the court. Those admitted to the public gallery packed it immediately when the doors opened. Madeleine Smith was 22 years old. She entered the dock, according to contemporary accounts, with the composure of someone attending a social occasion rather than standing trial for her life. She faced 3 charges: 2 counts of administering arsenic with intent to murder, and 1 count of murder. Madeleine was defended by John Inglis, the Dean of Faculty, one of the finest legal minds in Scotland. The prosecution was led by the Lord Advocate James Moncrieff. The defence cost £10,000. 189 witnesses were examined. The prosecution's case rested on the letters and the arsenic purchases. Madeleine had motive. She needed L'Angelier silenced. She had opportunity. He had visited her at Bleathswood Square, and she had given him hot drinks through the basement window. She had means. She had purchased arsenic from chemists' shops in Glasgow and signed for it in her own name. On the 5th day of the trial, the clerk of the court read Madeleine's letters aloud. It took nearly the entire day. The letters shocked the courtroom and the country. Their frankness about desire, physical intimacy, and passion was entirely at odds with what Victorian society expected from a respectable young woman. Newspapers published them widely. The public could not get enough. The defense countered on 2 crucial points. The chemists who had sold Madeleine arsenic both testified that they had mixed it with soot or indigo, as required by law, to make it distinguishable. The arsenic found in L'Angelier's body showed no such colouring. The defence argued this meant the arsenic could not have come from Madeleine's purchases. The defence also presented evidence that L'Angelier had spoken of suicide on more than one occasion, and that he was himself a habitual user of arsenic, which he believed improved his health and appearance. The prosecution could not produce a single eyewitness who could confirm that Madeleine and L'Angelier had met on the night he received his fatal dose of arsenic. After 9 days, the case was put to the jury of 15 men. They retired for just 30 minutes. On 9th July 1857, they returned their verdict. Not guilty on the first charge. Not proven on the remaining charges. Not proven is a verdict unique to Scots law. It does not establish innocence. It means the prosecution has failed to prove guilt beyond the required standard. The writer Walter Scott once called it that bastard verdict. It acknowledged that the evidence pointed strongly toward Madeleine Smith, but could not conclusively prove she had administered the poison. When the verdict was announced, cheers rang out in the streets outside the court. Madeleine Smith walked free. The scandal destroyed her family's life in Glasgow. They were forced to leave their home at Blitheswood Square and their country property. Her father, James Smith, never recovered from the ordeal. He died in 1863, aged 55. Madeleine moved to London. She changed her name to Lena. On 4th July 1861, she married George Wardle, an artist and associate of William Morris. They had 2 children, a daughter Mary, born 1863, and a son, Thomas, born 1864. For a time, she moved in Fabian society circles in London. She became a socialist. She was known to acquaintances of the young George Bernard Shaw. Few of them knew who she was. She and Wardle separated in 1889. Madeleine moved to New York City. She was 53 years old. At immigration, she gave her age as 36. She built a new life entirely. Around 1916, at the age of 75, she married a concrete contractor named William Sheehy, who was 20 years her junior. Sheehy died in 1926. Madeleine Hamilton Smith died on 12th of April 1928 in New York. She was 92 years old. She was buried at Mount Hope Cemetery in Hastings-on-Hudson, New York, under the name Lena Wardle Sheehy. In Glasgow's Ramshorn Cemetery, a weathered stone still stands. The name on it is L'Angelier. He was 33 years old when he died. He came from Jersey with nothing, built a life in Glasgow as best he could, and fell in love with a woman so far above his station that the relationship could only ever end in disaster. Whether Madeleine Smith poisoned him deliberately, or whether L'Angelier took his own life in an act designed to destroy her, has never been conclusively established. The jury returned its verdict in 1857. The question they left unanswered has never been resolved. Hello everyone, thank you for listening, and drop any feedback below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I hope to see you again in the next case, right here on Cold Case UK.